Hi, film addicts. Welcome to the show. Today we have a very special guest, Fern Champion. She is one of the world's top casting directors, and Fern has been nominated for both an Emmy and Artios Award for Best Outstanding Casting for the 6-hour miniseries, The Hatfields and McCoys, and that was directed by Kevin Reynolds for the History Channel. Hatfields and McCoys has become a phenomenon, becoming the highest rated non syndicated cable show in television. And Fern got the award for the film. What was it?
Well, I got the Artio for Confess. I was nominated for Hatfields, and I believe Hatfields went a little longer than 6 hours, although, it's all good, and it's still one of the highest ratings.
Yes. Can you tell us about that? How you got the project and how it was to work on such a special project?
Leslie Grive, who's a tremendous producer, he and I have been working together. It's been quite a number of years. He's directed things. We've done pilots together. We've done, little smaller movies together. And then he is quite a historian. And he really got involved with the writing of this book of the Hatfields and McCoys. He took it to Kevin Costner. And, and I think I've said this before, Kevin was in a movie, Field of Dreams. And the line from that movie is, build it and they will come. And, I had to say Kevin Costner, and I had every actor, New York, LA, all over the world, wanting to be in Hatfields and McCoys. First of all, Kevin had never been on television. We brought back the so-called miniseries. It was the first in such a long time. I don't know what it is with people thinking that I like staying on these long things, because War and Remembrance was 36 hours of a miniseries when I did it. But getting back to Hatfields, Kevin Reynolds, unreal director, Kevin Costner, Leslie Grive. I didn't have to call anybody. Everybody called me. But, I must say very quickly to the ladies in the audience, after working with Aaron Spelling, I did say to all the Kevins and Leslie, I said, ladies are going to watch these. I said, we have to have some really good-looking cowboys. I said, come on. I said, that's just not fair to the ladies in the audience. And if you've seen it, I had some of the best-looking cowboys. Matt Barr, who played his son, Boyd Holbrook, who played his other son. Are you kidding me? You could have muted the whole series, and you shouldn't. I had great-looking cowboys, plus Bill Paxton and Kevin Costner. Are you kidding me? Wow.
Yeah, and just incredible acting, well-deserved.
Spectacular.
Well-deserved nomination. Well-deserved nomination.
Thank you.
You should have gotten it, in my opinion.
Yeah, Kevin Costner said the same thing, because he saw, it was like it was a political thing, and Kevin just ran over to me and he said, you were robbed. You were. Yeah, I felt like I was, but you got to go on, and I have. And winning an Artios for Confess, I won it from my peers. So to me, that's really spectacular when you're casting peers not only nominate you, but make you a winner. So I'm sort of okay. I would like the Emmy sooner than later, though, or an Oscar. I mean, I would say an Oscar, but casting directors, we're not looked at in the film business for Oscars.
Well, we got to change that. We got to talk to.
Well, you know something, I got to tell you something. Now that we're part of the Teamsters, it will be changed.
Oh, that will be amazing.
But we do get Emmys, and we fought for, so long to get that. El deserved too.
Yeah.
But, I love what I do.
And how did you start your career? You were an actor, and I believe you started out as an actor, right, in New York?
Yes, I did. And I was rejected more than I wanted to be. And I think I've said it before that I don't know how to reject rejection. Although I do say that to my actors that you have to learn how to reject rejection. When you walk out of that room, let it go. But I couldn't. It hurt when I didn't get the part and when I thought I was really good. So then, being a kid from Brooklyn, I opted to pass judgment, get on the other side, and stay with my actors. But now I don't have to be rejected. Now I can pass judgment. And it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and one of your first films was it? I know that you did Saturday Night Fever. Can you tell us how that came about?
How did Saturday Night Fever come about? I was in New York. I had done casting before, and the one of the producers, and it wasn't Robert Stigwood I had worked with, and he set up a meeting with Robert Stigwood and myself. And at that point, believe it or not, and this is a whole other Oprah, my dad owned a nightclub. 54 was around, and everybody was, and Robert Stigwood said, "You seem to know this kind of movie." And I said, "I don't know. I know New York, and I grew up in Brooklyn. So what more can I tell you?" And the rest, I guess you say, is history. I knew John. I had met John before, and working with everybody was just quite a treat. It really, truly was. And we shot in Brooklyn, and there were nights that we were at White Castle that I took them all back to my mom's apartment, woke her up at 2 in the morning, brought her White Castle, and my mother's looking at John Travolta and people going, "Really? Is this happening in my apartment?" So, but you know something? I learned I can still do the dance. I mean, my sons get embarrassed. They hide when I hear Saturday Night Fever go on. Oh, please, it's embarrassing. But pretty great, pretty great. And then Robert Stigwood was the one that said, "Come to LA, leave New York. I've got my next film with the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton, and it's Sergeant Pepper, based on the Beatles album at that point, Sergeant Pepper." And I said, "Okay." And then I had to cast all these wonderful characters. Like there was a comic that was just going on the Johnny Carson show. His name was Steve Martin. I said to Robert Stigwood, "He's great for crazy Dr. Maxwell." And the rest is history again. Steve Martin became crazy Dr. Maxwell's hammer. I mean, and I'm just so much fun. I love music. I love doing all of that. It was pretty great. Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, you're like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, and you also started out with some comedies, right? You have an
Yes.
affinity for comedies. Was it? I remember the Cheech and Chong movies. They were so hilarious.
Well, you had to be stoned. So you're giving away secrets if you love them. I mean, I know that when my son went off to college, when Sean went off to college, and we were up at ASU, the posters, there were posters and all of a sudden one of his roommates started pushing the other one because my credit was on the one sheet. And I just looked at them. I said I was young, I needed the work. And my son, you can't watch those straight. You have to be a little Anita Stone. But they were great. The improv humor was spectacular. And we found a group called the Groundlings. Not we found them, the Groundlings, but it was the first group that ever was at the Groundlings. So it was Phil Hartman, it was Paul Rubens, it was Suzanne Kent, it was Bob McClurg, it was Edie McClurg. I mean, this was the troupe to be reckoned with. And they all became part of our rep company, Tommy and Cheech. Especially, they took Pee Wee and they took him on the road, so to speak. So improv to me is classic. I think it's so important. I do. Sometimes more important than doing stand up.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, you know why? Sometimes stand ups can't do anybody else's material but their own.
Oh, okay, that would make sense. They have their own style, and
That's right.
yeah. And then
Yep.
can you tell us about The Mask?
Oh, The Mask. Yes, The Mask originally, Chuck Russell was directing, and when I came in on it, originally it was Robin Williams, and he was going to be playing the mask. I mean, Jim's role per se, and he opted to opt out, and something else came his way dramatically, and enter the white guy in Living Color, and that was Jim, obviously. I couldn't find a female lead because Chuck Russell only wanted Anna Nicole Smith. I don't know if you're familiar with that name.
Yes.
But she guest model, and she had a tragic ending to her life. The bottom line is she was awful in the audition. She opted to do Naked Gun 33 and a third. May she rest in peace. Enter Cameron Diaz. And the rest is history. She was great. She was so much fun. She had no idea that you have to do this, you have to do this. She was all out and had a ball auditioning. And you can see it in Charlie's Angels, too. I mean, Cameron was not afraid of anything. And she became a friend throughout the years. I think when you and I were talking, I told you she was my son Spencer's bar mitzvah date. And, I mean, come on. That's pretty cool.
That is so cool. I mean, and what a nice thing to happen when you meet actors and you're working with them, that you become friends and family and lifelong friends.
Yes.
So that's super beautiful. And so you discovered Cameron Diaz like one in a million, but you also discovered other talents from Mickey Rourke, Danny Glover, Kim Cattrall, Kelly Preston, and Sharon Stone.
Not a bad trio of folks, of women in trio. Not a bad group of ladies and gentlemen, I think. They're all unique in their own way. Some a little bit more certifiable, and some that have just gone on. You have to understand, Sharon I put in War and Remembrance. Sharon I also put in Police Academy. Kim Cattrall I put in Police Academy. I mean, look where I started them. Just too funny. Listen, David Spade was in one of my Police Academies. That's where he started. And Bobcat Goldthwait, Police Academy. And then they just go on and on. And so, it's great to watch. It's like a mama bear watching her children.
Yeah, that is true. That you've given all these actors, male and female, their big breaks and their starts, and they've gone on to just become some of the top actors in the world. So that's amazing that
Isn't it?
that
Isn't
you
that
are
great
able
to do?
that you're able to spot talent so brilliantly is just accolade to your credentials and your passion for what you do, and that's why you're the
Thank
best.
you.
Yeah, and so
When we were doing Hatfields, Boyd was an Abercrombie and Fitch model. And as I said before, I did say to everybody, you have to have some good looking guys because the women will never. And enter Boyd. He walked into that. He also went on to do Narco. Narco? The series. Boyd is a tremendous actor at this point. And he was when he walked in as well. But sometimes the magic just flies into the room. And then other times you earn while you learn.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And so I want to ask you, what was your favorite film growing up that you just loved?
Growing up, what was my favorite film? I must tell you that growing up in Manhattan, Brooklyn and then Manhattan, my mom took me to theater. Television wasn't really huge, or as far as going to the movies, I think movies came for me later on, but it was theater originally, and I fell in love with Pretty Woman. I thought that was the most romantic, the most fun, and just I could get lost in it, and it had the humor and all the sweetness. I fell in love with Birdcage. I love watching Robin and Nathan Lane. To me, I've always liked to be entertained. more than the reality of some very difficult subjects. You know, I had the pleasure of very early on in my life working with Sidney Lumet on a movie called Network. And it was William Holden and Peter Finch. And now it was on Broadway that Bryan Cranston did it. And I watched Sidney Lumet, and no one has ever directed like Sidney. Nobody. And I've been doing it quite a number of years now. And nothing against any director, but Sidney, first of all of the actors, he called them all, it's a Jewish term, Bubala. Bubala, Bubala, come over here, Bubala. You know, it was like Gary Marshall, Gary Marshall, same kind of love on a set. Listen, after that, we went off to do The Wiz. Michael Jackson, Diana Ross. I mean, it's a musical. And there was Sidney Lumet, Bubala, Bubala, Bubala. And he was prepared, and he loved his actors, understood his actors, and taught me an enormous amount. But bum.
That's a precious gift to be with Sidney Lumet. He is certainly one of the greatest directors of all time, and that's a special, unique privilege, I guess, to have been right there to see him. I've been aspiring director, and I've directed whatever I can as an indie. So I would just have been love to have been there to watch what he did. So that's a special moment for you.
Don't you think though? It also starts with a script.
Yes, you can't do anything without the script. You have to have a great story 1st. Absolutely right. And I'm a big, I love Criterion films so much. Sometimes I watch some of the films and I just say, how does someone make a masterpiece like this? They're so beautiful, the films in the Criterion collection. So, yeah. But I wanted to ask you, so you also have done some action and horror. So, yeah, can you tell us about the Friday the 13th movies?
I was challenged to do them because, they never get old. People love seeing the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th and the April Fool's Day and all those sort of scary kind of things. It never gets old. It really doesn't. And it's some of them are the biggest money making. So when I was asked to do it, oh my gosh, I had no idea what I was doing except being told that 13 people die on every Friday the 13th. That to me was really, that's really cool. Okay. And it gave me the opportunity to cast unknowns. And that's a challenge to me. It's one thing to make a list of well known stars, that's a whole other kind of casting. But to really find and these young actors, that's what the horror movies were like. They were young, so it's extraordinary. But you really have to be a certain kind of crazy person to like it.
Yeah, and then you went on to do the Pet Cemetery, which is
Yes.
one of the favorites of Stephen King's, and also Mortal Kombat. Can you tell us about Mortal
Yes.
Kombat?
Well, I did both of them, Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And the only reason that I originally signed on to do it was because my sons at the time were 7 and 8 and were fixed to their video games and Johnny Cage and Katana and this one and just wow. And I said, really? How about if I did a movie? Would that be cool? Oh yeah, it would be unbelievable. And so they taught me all these characters that when I went in and had my audition, I knew about everybody. I knew these characters, and truthfully, my kids were at the premiere. We had Mortal Kombat parties, all Sub-Zero show. Well, all the characters would show up at my house. So there's payback. There are perks
Oh, I
to
love
being,
it.
I guess, my sons growing up, I guess.
They must love that you're a casting director, especially with the Mortal Kombat. They must have been like, Mom, you're the coolest ever.
Yeah, but it's like everything else. It's only for a moment. What have you done lately?
Well,
You know?
well, we can say that you also worked with the fabulous Aaron Spelling. Can you tell us how that went about with your TV series that you did, Beverly Hills 90210?
Well, before that, I had done a movie called Troop Beverly Hills with Shelley Long, and it's based on a true story, and it's really adorable. And there was a young actress who hadn't really done anything, and I read her, and I thought she was pretty good to not be one of the leads, but very big supporting. And she happened to have the last name of Spelling. And years later, when I was called about 90210, he said, "You hired someone very close to me." And I'm saying, "Mm-hmm." And he said, "Tori." And I said, "Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about." And he said, "And I didn't even have to call you. I said, "No, she got it on her own." And it was instant friendship. Aaron Spelling and I, we just became comrades. He adored me for hiring Tori, and I adored him because there were never ugly people in the series.
And can you tell me a little bit on the set that you said that he had a butler?
No, not on the set, on his at his offices.
Oh, okay. It was in the
Oh my
offices.
gosh! I mean, he was first of all he was behind iron doors with very big bodyguards in front of it. You have to understand, it's at one point, Aaron Spelling controlled the TV world from Dynasty to the Stephen Collins, the Jessica Biel Seventh Heaven, 90210. I mean, the man ruled the networks. So he was pretty impressive. So, yes, he had a butler. If you were working during lunch, you could come up to the dining room and the butler would, not the butler, the cook. And they had a full kitchen. I mean, you lived Dynasty. We were part of Dynasty. Um, he would like to tell his actors they got the part, didn't want to wait for me to make the deal, which sometimes made it a little difficult, but he liked his actors and he enjoyed letting them know you got the part. And I get it. There are times I'll call the actor and say, act surprised when your agent calls. But why does the agent always have to have the good news? Why can't I give it?
I like that approach. I like that a lot because, yeah,
Yep.
you just want to know your heartbeat's racing, and it's always nice to know when you book a show. So
Right?
also, yeah. So I love when you told me in the office the butler would at the end of the day would bring you
No, in the beginning of the day, first you had espresso, and if it wasn't croissants, it was little scones.
and
And that was great. And then towards the latter part of the day, when you were sort of like exhausted, it was 5, 6 o'clock, and you were getting sort of all of a sudden, would you like some red wine or some white wine? And and I shouldn't just say the butler. I forgot his name. I'm so sorry. But he was wonderful, and that's who Mr. Spelling was. He treated all of his people that worked with him like a big family. And he was pretty spectacular. And he watched dailies on every show. He was not to be reckoned with. He was a force to be reckoned with, I should say.
yeah,
He
that's
was pretty special.
yeah. I mean, I think I've watched every single TV show, along with many of us listening all around the world have probably watched every single TV show that he's ever made and enjoyed all of them. And
Right?
yes, they're just so
Charlie's
good.
Angels? Come
Dairies.
on. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
That's a pretty impressive, sampling of things he's done.
yeah. He just was just incredible producer and just knew what to produce. He had the what if we could say the Midas touch. He definitely had the Midas touch.
You ask about how do you know? I don't know how you know to the extent that certain people, we've mentioned Sidney Lumet, we've mentioned Aaron Spelling, we've mentioned, yes, Kevin Costner, and I don't know how you know at that point, you know? Wow, it's a special trait, but Aaron Spelling, you pay homage to the man. He's just brilliant. It's just brilliant.
And
Impressive, right?
yeah, and speaking of, you've also continued on with other hit TV series such as Full House, The Pilot, The Highlander, and Babylon 5.
Yeah. But I feel like this is your life. Yeah, because you know something? I'm a Gemini. And I don't know if that means a lot to most, but I constantly have an angel and a devil on my shoulders. And I need to be challenged. And I like being awesome. And I like just things that I've not done before. I get bored really easily. So listening to you say what I've done, from comedies to horror to action to this to that, what's wrong with that? I think that's the same as what an actor should be doing. Never get typecast. Always got to challenge them. You know, you got to put yourself out there, and otherwise, who wants to do things by rote? That's a bore. You might as well punch a clock.
Yeah. And you're just so incredible at what you do, and you have given starts to some of the career today's hottest childhood stars, from Ariel Winter and Enrico Rodriguez from Modern Family, and Atticus Schaefer from The Middle. I mean, it's just amazing. It's just like,
Yeah. That's I'll tell you, I do like working with young children at that point, because they're like sponges. You know, you say it one way and that sponge just takes it in. You know, they're just so much fun for me. They really are. So listen, when I met, you know, Victoria Justice, and I put her in in a movie with the Sprouse twins. I think I did 3 of Colin Dillon's movies. But so we put Victoria in it prior to her series. But there's something, you know, with a child actor, you know, it's not something that you have to keep going over and over. I enjoy working with them.
that's incredible. And we want to see, like, what have you, or what are you working on now? Have you been able to work on anything with COVID? How has this year been? It's been a really rough year for a lot of people.
Rough is childlike for this year. It's been a brutal. I mean, let's not even go. Hopefully, it'll be over by the time this podcast is on. But I've been very fortunate that I've been working on Lifetime movies from my computer, and I'm shooting in Atlanta. Again, Leslie Greif, my producer, is. We have 10 movies that we've been working on down there. So I've been, knock on wood, really lucky. And so is Spencer and Sean, my sons. I mean, they are also in the film business. We've all been working, and no one that I know of has gotten terminally ill from this awful year. You know, so we're staying safe. We're all getting tested often because we're involved with people. I must say, I don't like casting off of a computer. Once again, I think it's a bore. I love my actors in the room, to play with them, to adjust with them, to give them a change, to just to feel them. Again, going back to my theater background that my mom taught me. So this is tough. It's challenging. It's I don't like it.
And I'm glad that your family is safe and healthy. And I know that that one nomination for the Hatfields and McCoys, but if is there a project that you haven't done that would be a dream project for you?
Wow, that's a really good question. Yes, one that I would win an award for.
I love it. Yes, yes. And
That's the one. Yeah,
yes,
that's the
and I'm sure you're going to be on your way to that award very, very soon. Well,
one.
Fern, I want
Thank
to,
you.
yes, Fern, I want to thank you for joining us today here on Film Addicts, and I want to wish you and your family a happy New Year, and stay healthy, and all those wonderful good things. May they
Oh,
come true
I
for you.
appreciate it. I do, and I love the name of the Addicts. Isn't that great? That's Film Addicts. It's terrific.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us today, and thank you for listening, everyone.
Happy holidays.